Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Getsy's Reads. I'm so glad you're here with me. I'm Getsia, and welcome to my channel. I do book related content. I sometimes do hauls, I do movie reviews too, and I'm a lover of physical media stuff. So if you're interested in those things, then check my channel out, and if you like it, press the subscribe button and the notification bell so YouTube can notify you whenever I upload a video. Okay guys, so at last I am going to be sharing with you my Victober wrap up. I would have liked to do this sooner, but it's been a crazy week, so I couldn't really be focused on the books, but I got to finish them, and that's what matters. I have 3 books on my wrap up, and I did a Victober TBR, which I'll put up here in the cards if you want to check that video out, where I showed you what books I wanted to read, and now I'm going to share what my opinions were on these books. The first one that I'm going to be discussing with you, it's the first one that I finished, and it's The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This one, and this is the abridged version, okay people? So this is not like the original is like, I think, almost 2,000 pages, something crazy like that I don't think I'm gonna read ever. And I have an unpopular opinion on this book, I believe, based on all the other reviews I've seen on BookTube. I don't recommend you read the whole the original copy of this book. Okay, so our main character, his name is Edmond Dantes. He is at the start of the book, he's 20 years old, I believe, or 22, something like that. He's a sailor at a ship, and he's a very kind-hearted young man. Like, almost everyone likes him, but he still has enemies because there's a man that works in the boat too, that he's jealous of Edmond because the captain has promoted Edmond to a higher position, and that other man wanted to have that position. And then there's this other man, I forget those names, whatever. There's this other man that is in love with Edmond's fiance, and and Edmond is going to be married to her, so that guy is not happy about that. And the two of them, long story short, devise a scheme and accuse Edmond to the authorities of being part of a Bonapartist plan to overthrow the current government of the country. And I don't know much about that history particularly. It's interesting. I would like to read books about that era, but I don't really know much information, so I can't really say much about that. But he's part of a Bonapartist plan. Obviously he's innocent, but they plan, the two of them and another man, they plan this scheme, and he ends up going to jail. And in jail he spends, I think, 14 or 15 years of his life. He gets out when he's 33 or 30, something like that. And in that jail he meets another man, and that man tells him that there's a treasure in an island, and nobody believes in, but he knows, there's a treasure in this island. And the island, I think the island is called the island of Monte Cristo. I think that's where he gets his name. Okay, so that's like basically I'm resuming like the first like part. It's a big chunk, but the first part of the plot. Like, how does Edmond get to jail? And okay, yeah, so at first, he's a likable character. I mean, this is a very plot-driven story, and that's where I think it lost me, because I've recognized in myself. I haven't really read that many books, but the books that I've read recently, I've recognized that I tend to like more the books that are character-driven than the ones that are plot-driven. I just get lost in the plot, and that's something like that happened to me in this book. After he gets out of jail, he escapes. He takes various identities because he wants to exact revenge on the people that put him in jail. And yeah, he goes on this quest for revenge. He basically takes the role of God, like he wants to make the others pay for what they did to him. And I mean, he has a very twisted idea of who God is. Of course, his character just gets very twisted. But yeah, after he takes the identity of Monte Cristo, the Count of Monte Cristo, and he goes to Paris, and in Paris, they're like in the plot, the story starts. It presents you lots of characters, and honestly, I really couldn't care less about most of these characters. Like, I just wanted to know what happened to Monte Cristo, what things he did, and there were so many characters that I just got lost, and sometimes I didn't know who was the sister, the brother of who, which family which was which, who was the person that Edmond wanted to get revenge on. And yeah, I believe that in the unabridged original version, like, there's a lot more details on what Edmond does, but to be honest, I didn't really care much for the story. It kind of, after half of the book, after he gets out of jail and he starts looking for these people, it kind of started to bore me. Yeah, it just kind of like a lot of details, a lot of family drama that really didn't seem interesting to me. And yeah, and it has a happy ending. I think it doesn't really have anything tragic. I mean, it does have lots of tragic things on the story, but the ending is not really tragic for Edmond. Like, he's happy at the end. Yeah, I think I gave it 3 stars. I kind of was expecting a bit to like it a bit more, because I thought it was going to be more character driven, but it wasn't. And I mean, if you're looking for a character like driven story, I believe this is not the one. This is very plot heavy for me, for my personal taste. And yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that don't read it, but I wouldn't really encourage you to read it. It's a classic, and people say, oh, you have to read every classic. I don't believe that. I mean, there are classics that if you like, you read it, and there are ones that you're not going to be missing out on much if you don't read them, and I think that this is one of those. So yeah, 3 stars for The Count of Monte Cristo. Let's go to this other book. Oh gosh, I almost didn't finish this book. This is not, well, it's like a novel, okay. This is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Okay. This is Bantam. These 2 are Bantam classics. Okay. Okay, Frankenstein. Okay, first of all, I think you know, but if you don't know, FYI, Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. Frankenstein is the name of the character that creates the monster, okay? But since the movies and Hollywood have just given the name to the monster, so because it's cooler to name him Frankenstein than just name him the monster or the demon or the creature. Okay, so let me just I forget the name of this person, of the character. Okay, the Frankenstein. The name of the main character is Victor Frankenstein. I kinda connected with him on that part, and sometimes feeling alienated from other people. But he's on a whole other level. I mean, he ends up creating a whole other species. Like, come on. I'll read a passage of, so that you get a feel of like the type of writing this is and the type of character he is. Okay, in page 23 I'm reading, I confess that neither, this is from Victor's point of view, I confess that neither the structure of languages, nor the code of government, nor the politics of various states possessed attractions for me. It was the secrets of heaven and earth that I desired to learn. And whether it was the outward substance of things or the inner spirit of nature and the mysterious soul of man that occupied me, still my inquiries were directed to the metaphysical, or in its highest sense, the physical secrets, of the world. So, he has very philosophical thoughts. He's not really interested in like the material things of the world, the superficiality of the things that surround him. He wants to like dig deeper into those things. And on page 42 is when he finally like finishes creating the creature. And this is what he says, or what he thinks, when he sees what he's created. Okay, in page 42 it says, I had desired it with an ardor that far exceeded moderation. But now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. Unable to endure the aspect of the being I had created, I rushed out of the room and continued a long time traversing my bedchamber, unable to compose my mind to sleep. And he calls this creature, like wretched. He calls it a demoniacal corpse. The demoniacal corpse to which I had so miserably given life. No mortal could support the horror of that countenance. A mummy again endued with animation could not be so hideous as that wretch. That's on page 43. So he beholds, he sees this creation and he just hates it. This is horrible, like I should have never created this thing. But he just leaves it there, and I believe the creature like runs out. Because Frankenstein, he's like, I hate you, like get out of here, get out of my face, in other words. And then most of the book we follow this creature as he hides, and it's really like he's trying to find the creature, the monster, his identity in the world, because he's like, my own creator hates me. He thinks I'm hideous, and at the same time he's like, I understand, I know that I'm hideous, but he's the one that created me, so he at least should love me, or or be kind to me. And at first the creature is just trying to connect with the villagers, with other human beings, but when people see him, they get scared. He's like a monster. He's made out of different body parts of different people, and they run or they attack him. and and we are accompanying him with his thoughts, and his thoughts keep getting darker. He's like, if no one is going to love me, if and in one instance there's this little girl, she falls on the river and she's about to drown, and he rescues her, the creature, and then the father takes the little girl away from him, runs to the woods. He runs after the father, and when the father gets closer to him, he has a pistol, and he shoots the creature. He doesn't die, but he shoots him in the shoulder or arm, something like that. And at that moment, he gets really mad, because he's like, I saved this girl, this human, and he's going to treat me like that after I saved his daughter. And he just starts to seek revenge. Like, all these books, especially these two, are just filled with revenge, because he feels that the creator, Victor, owes it to him to have a happy life. It doesn't have to be a comfortable or normal life like everybody else, because he's not normal, but to show him kindness at least. And the creature, every time he gets a bit close to someone, to another human, they just abhor him and do not like him. And he makes it his mission in his life to make Victor, Frankenstein, miserable. And Frankenstein, he ends up really regretting creating this monster, because he created chaos. He created something that he could not stop himself. If he can stop him, that he's the creator, then no one can. Yeah, it ends on a really gloomy type of ending. It's expected. Victor's life keeps getting worse. He keeps losing people he loves, but at the end of the day, it's kind of his fault, because he created this creature. And he didn't show him any love, or at one point the creature asked Victor to create a female companion for him, because he's like, okay, human beings are not going to accept me as I am, as I look, so just create someone that looks as horrible as me, to accompany me in my life, and we can live in the mountains where no one will see us ever. And at first Victor complies, but after thinking of it, he's like, oh no, but if they have children, then they're going to create a whole race of monsters, and the whole humanity is going to hate me for it, so I'm not going to do that. And he destroys the companion he was creating for the monster. And that's a whole other thing that really enrages the creature. And so one thing after the other, it ends in catastrophe for the creator and for the creation. So yeah, I gave this 3 stars. What I didn't really like about this, it's that it's so descriptive of nature. I think that's called nature writing. I don't really know much about that, but I don't really like it. I mean, I'm not interested in knowing like how many pine trees, how many mountains, how they look. It's okay if it's a little one or two passages, but it's like pages upon pages of nature description, and I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in the characters, okay, Mary Shelley? But yeah, that's the only thing I didn't really like. It's very descriptive of nature, and it also has, it was kind of a slow read for me. I gave this 3 stars. And we have the last book here, which I've wanted to read for a long time. This was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I bought this version on Thrift Books, which is a second-hand online bookstore that if you want to check it out, I recommend you go check out the page. And okay, so on The Picture of Dorian Gray, we follow the very handsome young Dorian Gray. At the first start of the story, he is about 20 or 22 years old. He's in his very, very early 20s. He is posing for a picture of that his painter friend is drawing for him. And at first he's just very like naive and just doesn't really know that much about life. But then he meets Lord Henry, which I don't know. I think he's not a likable character at all. And Dorian, while we don't really know that much about him at first, he's not likable or dislikable. He's just like meh, because we still don't really know him. He's just like mediocre. I believe that's how you say it. And then he meets Lord Henry, and Lord Henry basically poisons his mind. He says to him that basically at the end of the day, beauty is all that matters. And that there's a passage, let's see here. Oh yeah, he says, Lord Henry, this is on page 3. He says, but beauty, real beauty, ends where an intellectual expression begins. Intellect is in itself a mode of exaggeration and destroys the harmony of any face. The moment one sits down to think, one becomes all nose or all forehead or something horrid. So he's not saying this to Dorian yet because he's not met Dorian, but he's talking with I believe with the painter friend the painter is called Basil, and he's talking to him. So at the start we already are seeing how Lord Henry thinks, like what his perspective on life is. And then we're going to be seeing how that affects Dorian throughout the remainder of his life. And Dorian, when he meets him, he becomes like fascinated with Lord Henry because he says it himself in page 19, he was so unlike Basil being the painter. They made a delightful contrast, and he had such a beautiful voice. He's talking about Lord Henry. Sorry. So, so he's saying, Lord Henry, he's like, in other words, he's like, just enjoy your beauty now because you're going to grow old and then you're basically, no one's going to like you when you grow old and ugly. No one's going to like you, Dorian, so enjoy now while you still can. And Dorian's like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to grow old and have, an awful face, awful features, like, no. And he basically makes like he calls it like a prayer, but it's like basically like a deal with the devil. Let's just say the book doesn't mention like a specific character that is the devil. It just alludes to Dorian making that deal with the devil of like, I'm going to remain beautiful, I want to remain youthful for all eternity, and the one that is going to take on all of the ugliness of my sins is going to be the portrait. And that's exactly what happens. Dorian keeps, the years keep on passing, and Dorian stays his beautiful self, but the portrait becomes horrid, becomes uglier and uglier, because yes, he is beautiful on the outside, of what you can see on his skin, but his soul just gets more horrid as the years go by. He becomes a very, how do you say, like, he becomes very egotistical. He only thinks about himself. He doesn't really care about how his words or his actions affect other people. The way he lives his life and how he influences others is chaotic, to say the least. He causes people to commit suicide, to basically get their lives ruined, because Dorian, he is like a disease. When you meet him, when you get to know him, like, your life is basically destroyed by his beauty. Let's just say, by his mysterious, eternal, unchanging beauty. Where does this come from? And Dorian, he himself, he just keeps getting like more, like, he gets paranoid, I think. Like he has this picture on a room where no one can see it, and he's just scared that someone is going to find the truth of his youthfulness of his life. Basically, eventually someone does find it, and things don't go down very well. I don't know if it's a study, but it's like a representation of how low people can get just for appearance's sake, just for their vanity, how a lot of people just care about what you can see on the outside, and they think that that's all that makes a person, but their soul is slowly rotting, and they just don't care. Like, he at the end he's kind of realizing, like, I have to stop this some way. He tries to be good, to like redeem himself in some way, but he even questions himself, like, am I really doing this for the benefit of others, or am I just doing it to make myself feel better? Which is something that most of us have asked ourselves before, I believe, I think. And this story just ends in a tragedy. Um, yeah, and let me just see if I highlighted any other passages. Okay, so the last passages I highlighted, one is in page 250. It says, this is Dorian speaking. It says, it was like him, like realizing, introspecting. It was his beauty that had ruined him, his beauty and the youth that he had prayed for. But for those two things, his life might have been free from stain. His beauty had been to him but a mask, his youth but a mockery. What was youth at best? A green, unripe time, a time of shallow moods and sickly thoughts. Why had he worn its livery? Youth had spoiled him. And on page 251, a little bit, like the last passages, it says, perhaps if his life became pure, he would be able to expel every sign of evil passion from the face. Perhaps the signs of evil had already gone away. He would go and look. So that this is when, this is like already like at the last chapter of the book. He is going to go and see if by him doing good deeds, the picture like goes back in time and gets that's more beautiful, more less ugly. But like most of us know where this ends. It doesn't. Like he realizes he can't take back his sins. He can't take back his ugliness, the ugliness of his soul. And yeah, this ends very tragically. But out of these 3 books I read, I gave this 4 stars. To be honest, I didn't really find anything that I didn't like in it. No, I honestly would have liked this to be a little longer. I honestly thought this book was going to be more explicit. I don't know why, because I think I saw the movie a couple years ago, and the movie, it's like a bit more, I think it's a bit more explicit. I mean, it's, a movie. So I expected the book to be like, wow, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he wrote this. But it's not. It's like, for me, it's not really anything controversial or anything like that. I really enjoyed the writing, how Oscar Wilde wrote this novel. I really recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. This is the book I most enjoyed out of these 3 that I read for Victober. Okay, guys, so this would be my Victober wrap up. I would have liked this to not be too long, but I talk and I talk and I talk, and I just hope people like listening to my opinions. So I finished giving you my opinions on these books. If you read any of these, or if you want to read any of these now, tell me your thoughts down in the comments. If you read one of these books or all 3 of them, what did you think of them? What rating did you give? What did you like? What things you didn't like or would you change? And yeah, just say hey, hello down in the comments. I would like to meet other smaller booktubers, because we're a small community, but I think we're pretty on the most part a chill community. I mean, I'd hope we be a chill community, but I don't know. But yeah, I met a couple of really cool booktubers. So yeah, if this is your first time seeing my channel and if you liked my video, please, if you want to, hit the like button, subscribe, see my all my other content. I'll be putting the cards up here. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, I used an audiobook to help me get through this because it was hard. I'm telling you guys, it was kind of hard, because it I don't know, it was very slow paced in my opinion. So I listened to the audiobook at the same time that I was reading this, so I could follow it, and I'm going to be linking the audiobook down in the description, so if you're interested in that, you can go see it. I didn't use any audiobooks for these two, I just read them. I mean, I read these also, but I used the audiobook to help me read it too. So I'll be putting that down in the description. I'll be putting the names of the books, and I'll be putting like the versions of these specific books I read. And yeah, this is all for now. Yeah guys, thanks so much for seeing my video. I hope you liked it. We're already in November, guys. Oh my gosh, Christmas is right down the corner. Like, I can feel it right now. I can feel it, guys. Okay, until next time, I hope you like my video. I'll see you on the next video. Bye guys, cheers, and keep on reading. Bye.